You have found the Lines Injury Podcast for week number 5 in the National Football League. My name is Steven Andress, managing editor at thelines.com. Joined each and every week on this show by Will Carroll at Injury Expert on Twitter, a man who has been analyzing injuries around the professional sports world for more than 20 years. You can find his work on thelines.com, and you can also check out his new book, The Science of Football, available everywhere books are sold. Can't wait to dig into that myself, Mr. Carroll. How are you, my friend? Good to see you again.
I'm doing great. Tons to talk about, unfortunately. It seems like every week the injury report gets deeper, longer, more serious. We had Jonathan Taylor out last night, leading to Nyheim Hines maybe doing things he isn't well suited to doing, like running up the middle and getting his noggin knocked off. Mm-hmm. He's in the concussion protocol. And given all the notice that we've gotten with Tagovailoa over the last couple of weeks, this looks like the NFL is finally having to take it seriously, and maybe that'll trickle down as well.
Yeah, we saw like 5 different people huddled around a monitor, making sure Russell Wilson didn't have symptoms, and then he was ultimately left in the game. So it is absolutely abundantly clear that the NFL is not messing around with this concussion situation. So there's a couple players again this week on the injury report heading into Sunday games that we'll touch on that fall into this category. But I want to start with the New England Patriots quarterback situation with Mac Jones. We've talked about this a couple of times the last couple of weeks, a high ankle sprain for him. Bill Belichick pulled some shenanigans, having him out there in the media portion of practice, but obviously didn't play last week. There are rumors that he has a quote-unquote chance to play this week, but that would certainly fly in the face of the recovery timeline for this injury, would it not?
Yeah, it would. There's no way he's going to play this weekend. I don't think they've ruled him completely out, but got to see him moving. And I think this gave us a lot more insight into what's actually going on with him. There was talk that he was going to have surgery. I know for a fact that his people consulted with his former team doctor at Alabama, Lyle Kane, who has really pioneered some of the usage in football of what's called tightrope surgery, where they use Kevlar to help repair the high ankle, the syndesmosis, which is the joint between the tibia and the fibula down at the bottom of your leg. But this is a situation where, people said, well, if he was going to have surgery and we saw how little he was moving last week, why didn't he just go have the surgery? Especially since it's really only about an 8-week recovery. Coming back in the season would be difficult, not impossible, but difficult. But I think what we saw was it was right on the edge there. Maybe it heals on its own, maybe it doesn't. So let's watch it for a couple of weeks. Yeah, a couple of weeks isn't going to kill any team. They should have some decent quarterback who can step in. As we saw, they actually had 2, assuming Brian Hoyer's okay. So I think the progression we saw from Mac Jones this week shows this was what we thought it was, that they're hoping they don't have to go surgery. It remains an option. If it doesn't make any more progress, they can always go do that, not lose a lot more time. So I'm very curious to see where he's at next Wednesday, next Thursday. This Sunday, no. I'm much more curious about Brian Hoyer. Is he, assuming he gets out of the concussion protocol, is he going to step back in? I mean, Zappe, a guy who I remember playing at Houston Baptist, wow. If you need a system quarterback, that looks like what you've had. They've been searching for somebody. Mac Jones has been solid. But when you find something like that, Brian Hoyer's looked terrible the last couple of years. So we didn't get much of a chance to see what he would have done with the Patriots before his concussion. But does he take back over? Is it Zappe again, who looked good? Is it a fluke? Is it something? That's just so much uncertainty going into Sunday that I have no idea what to do with the line there. I don't think, whichever quarterback it is, it really changes how anybody else is going to play. They look perfectly adequate against a very good defense with Zappe in there.
Yeah, the line is weird here because Patriots -3, -115. They are -3.5 with less juice in a couple of other spots. I could be wrong here, but to me, it's like they're not sure with this number if Mac Jones is going to play or not. But you and I both agree he's not going to play. Yeah. So are we going to get a better number on the Patriots when he's officially ruled out? Maybe see normal juice at 3 or even see maybe a 2.5 if it is Bailey Zappe out there. But it's clear to me that the market is telling us that they may not really care who the quarterback is, because the action has been on the Patriots this week. The Lions still don't have Andress Swift and Amon-Ra St.Brown, and the offense has been historically bad despite a pretty easy schedule the first month of the season. And the Patriots, on the flip side, have 3 losses, but they were against the Dolphins, Ravens, and Packers. So this is an interesting week across the league for a lot of teams who had either favorable schedules or really difficult schedules the first month and are playing the inverse of that this week. So it seems that's kind of what we're dealing with here, with the Patriots getting some respect here despite the slow start and the 3 losses.
If Mac Jones somehow manages to play, if they put him out there, let's say it's a decoy move, it's not going to be. He'll be out. But if the line moved positive for the Patriots on it, Mac Jones can't move. If the line moves, Mac Jones can't. That'd be a place to go. I don't think that play will come into play. I'm also watching Amon-Ra St.Brown. I do think he's going to be back this week. They've already ruled out Swift, but we'll have to see whether or not he steps back in. They're putting up a lot of points. Certainly Jared Goff showed he can go to somebody besides St. Brown. They've had such a connection
against Seattle. It was against Seattle last week. Different monster with Belichick this week. So they could definitely use St. Brown.
They kept Aaron Rodgers somewhat contained. Should have had one more touchdown when Dobbs dropped one, killed my fantasy team. But it's one of those situations where I think on point side, we're probably going to have a higher scoring game. Bill Belichick always tries to take away the top weapon. That's got to be St. Brown. So I don't love him this week just because I'm a little unsure of the ankle, though things seem to be progressing. They know he's got next week off on the bye. They're not going to do what they're doing with Swift, where they're pairing those together, which I think is smart. But right now, Detroit and the Patriots, I don't see it.
Fair to say, if St. Brown does play, that you would believe he's not near 100% given back-to-back DMPs Wednesday, Thursday?
No, I think if he was out there today moving around on Friday, so that's more of a positive. There's a lot of times, 100% no, 85%. He from the long lens video that we saw was pretty positive given what we expected. So I'm going to say if he plays, he's still going to be good, but I don't think he's going to be able to get as open. He is one of those. You always have to know how a wide receiver gets open. If he's a big physical guy like a Julio Jones in his prime, man, he doesn't need to be faster than you. He's just going to shove you off, or he's going to go over the top. Antonio Gates, man, that guy could barely run at the end of his career, but he's still so physical he could get things done. Some guys just run past you like a Tyreek Hill. Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't any of those. He's a route runner. He's got to be precise, and if he's not able to go one way as hard, that's going to be tough. You don't see those double and triple moves when you can't cut off one side.
Have some breaking news as we record here that I want to get to for anybody that's watching us live. If you're watching us on YouTube after the fact, you can find us live streaming on Twitter at The Lines US around 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time every Friday. Ravens' number 1 wide receiver, Rashod Bateman, with a midfoot injury, has officially been ruled out by Baltimore. That is significant considering the depth chart at wide receiver for the Ravens. They don't have anybody else at wide receiver that's all that reliable. They have Devin Duvernay, Demarcus Robinson, James Prochet. It's a bunch of cast-offs. Mark Andrews is about all they have that's reliable in the passing game. So that's interesting to me, considering as we record here, the line is still plus 3.5. You can talk about spot and revenge spot, but not having your number 1 wide receiver against a team that has really prolific weapons on the other side, and your secondary has had a hard time slowing down offenses. I think that hook becomes even more valuable now for Cincinnati at plus 3.5. I wouldn't be surprised if that moves off of that pretty quickly. I've already bet Cincinnati plus 3.5. If you're interested in the Bengals this week, I would recommend moving on that quickly with this Bateman news. But when you hear midfoot from the head coach, Will, what does that tell you?
Usually when you hear that, you think Liz Frank, and that's obviously still a possibility here. But normally, most coaches they talk to the doctors, they talk to the athletic trainers, and then they translate it back. Only the Chiefs allow their athletic trainer to come out and talk, which I think more teams should. We would look. There's no disadvantage to giving us information, and if you don't trust your fans, if you don't explain these to your fans, there's always a backlash when these hidden injuries seem to happen. So usually the coach will parrot something, if he hears midfoot, if he hears Lisfranc, that's what he'll say. They don't do a whole lot of translation most of the time. Sometimes coaches have a tendency to just be very, very anti-specific almost in saying he's got a knee, he's got a hamstring. They'll point, and that's about it. So the midfoot tells me it may not be a Lisfranc. The fact that we're not talking about multi-week absences yet, I still don't have a lot of details on this one, but you're exactly right. There's just not a lot of depth there. He can only throw to Mark Andrews so much. I think this becomes one of those where there's going to be situations where somebody's just not going to be open and Lamar's going to run. That's what he does. So unless you can figure out how to stop that, and nobody really has, I think this is a decent opportunity to look at rushing yardage for Lamar. Maybe take a little bit down on the points. So the under, to me, feels good on this matchup regardless, just because the Bengals have been a little bit unsettled on offense.
Some more news that is happening as we record here. Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints has been ruled out. Dennis Allen, the head coach, has also said that Andy Dalton will officially get a second start this week against the Seattle Seahawks. Jameis Winston officially doubtful. So whether he's active or not, though, Andy Dalton will get the start against Seattle, 5.5-point favorites in this one. For a full analysis and betting breakdown, check out the Megapod for what we think. Do we think the Seahawks offense is for real with Geno Smith? Do we think this is a buy low spot for the Saints? I'm not sure -5.5 is a buy low spot, but just continued concerns here with Michael Thomas, obviously, and Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and not only that, Alvin Kamara with the rib, he's likely going to play. He has played with it, so I think it's tough. It's just a tough offensive set for them right now. Andy Dalton doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. They should be deep. Certainly Chris Olave's developing there. Looked pretty good last week without Thomas, but another week without your quarterback and your number one receiver is not going to be a good week for you offensively.
Let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one started in teaser range at the beginning of the week with the Bucs anywhere between 8 to 8.5 point favorites and quickly got out of teaser range. I think a lot of people loaded up on some teasers there or just took the Bucs straight up. That number has ballooned all the way to 10. We've seen some buyback on the Falcons at one book, BetMGM, where it's now sitting at 9.5, but mostly 10s across the board as we record. The Falcons didn't get any good news on the injury report. Tight end Kyle Pitts is out of this one. The head coach, Arthur Smith, said, quote, "It's not expected to be a long-term injury." But as far as the injury itself, I believe it's a hamstring.
Yeah, simple hamstring injury. He's just not going to be able to go. If he went out there, he would likely have a recurrence. Couldn't get the push that he needs to begin with. So better safe than sorry for not a great Atlanta team, but Pitts is one of those really developing guys. This is one where I really think we're going to see with Cordero Patterson out, they'll have to go to the young guy in Allgeier. They'll have to go to the young guy in Drake London. I'm curious how quickly they'll go to the young guy quarterback in Desmond Ridder. We've already seen Pittsburgh make the switch. And so will Mariota hang on? He's been decent. But it's going to be tough without two of their more talented players on offense.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts hasn't exactly gotten a ton of usage from Arthur Smith this year, but in terms of game planning for an opposing defense, he is absolutely somebody that you have to account for. And with him not being out there, makes it a lot easier to game plan against the rest of the Atlanta offense. The Marcus Mariota, to your point, with what he's done this year, he is sitting just slightly below average in terms of EPA and CPOE blend, around 17th among all quarterbacks. For context, that is just slightly behind Derek Carr and Cooper Rush through the first 4 games of the season, but he also has a negative completion percentage over expectations. So we'll see. They won last week. Obviously, he's going to start again this week. We'll see how quick the hook is on Marcus Mariota here for the rest of the season, with another dual threat quarterback potentially in Desmond Ridder on the bench waiting for an opportunity. On the flip side here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this one, really the healthiest we've seen them since, maybe even more so than week 1, where Godwin was limited, got re-injured again. And I think we're seeing the market tell us that this is their opinion of the Bucs when they are fully healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Godwin's going to play. He did that last week. He'll go in questionable, but he'll play. Gage is going to play. The one who's not is Cameron Brate, and this is the one that's curious to me. Concussion again. It wasn't seen initially. It was caught later. It was unfortunate that it happened right in front of Tony Dungy, who called it out. But it was good that he was treated properly. So without Brate and without Gronkowski, it just seems like that security blanket isn't there for Tom Brady. And at the end, he goes through his progression, still very good at that. But then that last one, it's like there's something missing. It's like he's still looking for Gronk. So that's held him back this year. I'm curious to see, with Brate out, do they go more 3 and 4 wide, or do they go down the depth chart and stay with a tight end who's there to help block, at least on a chip basis? So I think this is about as healthy as they're going to be. I mean, you're always going to have people banged up, but at least in that receiver core, absent Brate, they look like what they expected to look like. This is the one that's going to tell me whether Tom Brady should have retired. There have been times this season where I've said, man, he might have wanted to stay, was the first thought on that, the way it's looked. Taking a lot of hits, doesn't have the offense he wants. Is it going to come back around? And this is the week that I think will be most telling.
Yeah, on paper, he really should slice up this Falcons secondary. And I think Julio Jones, limited practice all week with the knee still, questionable officially.
Don't worry about that. Julio Jones at this stage of his career is not going to practice a whole lot, and it doesn't matter. He's not as fast as he was, but he's still big. He's still big. He's still strong. I keep comparing him to Antonio Gates. He's not that big, but the fact that he can go down there, basically block people out, use his physicality on short plays. They've just got to figure out how to use him and get him healthy enough to be out there doing the things he can do. For guys like him, I'm not worried at all about the fact that we're not going to see him on the practice field much. He'll have a designation virtually every week.
Another injury alert as we record, as we suspected. Mac Jones will not start. It is Bailey Zappi that will start for the New England Patriots, and the line, we'll keep an eye on it as we continue the show. And it is off the 3.5. It is down to 3 in some spots. We'll see if it keeps moving. If the market is going to reject Bailey Zappi as the quarterback, only one spot left right now where it was New England 3.5. So we're already seeing a little bit movement back there with the third stringer starting as we suspected. Just some smoke and mirrors on the Mac Jones stuff this week.
Yeah, I'm just curious whether or not Hoyer, who's still in the concussion protocol, did they not think he was going to be out of it, or did they choose Zappi? I'm very curious to find that one out.
That's true. I mean, if he's in protocol, he can't really practice in 11-on-11s or go through that stuff, depending on how far along he is in the protocol, right? Part of that could be just prep.
Yeah, exactly. I do. That's, Hoyer's another guy who I think he knows the offense, and assuming his brain's clear, he could have been back out there today. I haven't seen whether or not he was. I know he's in the protocol as of this morning.
I also think the Patriots know what they have in Brian Hoyer, and it's not a quarterback that's going to lead you to a playoff game. So why not throw Bailey Zappi out there and see what you have in him, who was impressive in a spread offense in a small conference in college. So let's see what the kid's got. But it's not very often, Will, that you have a third string quarterback that's going to be a favorite in a game in the NFL against the number one offense in the league in Detroit. So really interesting situation in this game where I think a lot of people will have the opinion that the wrong team's favored, but I also just say pump the brakes based on who these two teams have faced to this point.
Yeah. The thing I just had a text. Brian Hoyer's on IR. So,
there you go.
Answer to that question. That's surprising. That was announced yesterday, and I missed it. But it's one of those situations where maybe there's something more. When he landed and hit his head, he also landed on that shoulder, and it collapsed. It's the kind of thing that could have caused a problem beyond what we see. And of course, the Patriots or any other team doesn't have to tell us that. Because the injury report is about availability, not injury.
Right. It's about practice participation. So he's on IR now, out for at least 4 weeks, and we'll see if he comes back or not. Opportunity for Bailey Zappi to take that backup job. Okay. Dak Prescott and the thumb injury. He is not going to play this week. No. The latest information is that he's still having trouble gripping the football, which tells you what about the possibility of him playing in a pivotal NFC East matchup next week against the Philadelphia Eagles here.
Yeah, he's close. Talking to some people down there that saw it, he just didn't have touch with the football. He can grab the football, he can throw the football, but it's still a little bit off. They felt like from where he was Monday to where he was today on Friday, that he made improvements. So they think, another couple days of treatment, another couple days of rest, another couple days of strengthening it. He's spending a lot of time, maybe not in the weight room, but squeezing one of those therapy balls or something. So it's a situation where I think he's getting closer. They're certainly not going to rule it out. The other thing that I think factors into this is they don't have to push him back out there. Cooper Rush has played better than we expected from Cooper Rush. I don't think there's any quarterback controversy and won't be. But he does give them more room to say, you know what, we can go another week. You work on that grip, buddy. We'll see you for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this week's game against the Rams goes as well. This is around a 5.5 point spread in favor of the Rams in LA. And after they looked pitiful against the 49ers last week, this is now 2 games where the Rams have faced a legitimate pass rush in the Bills and also the 49ers. And Matthew Stafford's been sacked 7 times in both of those games. And now they face a Dallas pass rush that is ranked even higher than both of those opponents. The Cowboys are number 1 in the league in pass rush win rate. And it's not just Micah Parsons. It's DeMarcus Lawrence. They're getting after it. If Matthew Stafford doesn't have time, you can talk about Cooper Rush against the Rams defense all you want, but if Matthew Stafford doesn't have time to throw the ball, he's either getting sacked or throwing bad picks. We've seen that over and over again, even dating back to last year when they had trouble protecting him. So
maybe they call Andrew Whitworth, see if he wants to reconsider.
Yeah, right. Get off Amazon.
They've looked terrible, and a lot of people have asked whether or not I think that Stafford's elbow is problematic here, and the answer is no. He's made the throws. None of them have been, those kind of dying quails or not being able to put zip on the ball interceptions. It's just been, rushing a throw and not seeing somebody because he's got a 300-pound man about to crush him. So, no, I don't think the elbow's been a problem. I think everything else has been a problem for the Rams so far, but I don't think that'll continue. That's just too good a coaching staff.
Yeah, I think we'll see, man. Well, I agree, but this matchup against this ferocious pass rush there's only so much you can do with coaching if your quarterback has less than 2.5 seconds to throw the ball on each snap. And the Rams depth chart right now with their interior offensive line in particular, Brian Allen is questionable. Coleman Shelton is questionable. Brian Allen on the injury report, back-to-back DNPs Wednesday and Thursday with a knee injury. They're on the West Coast, so we don't have the final injury report just yet. Shelton, back-to-back DNPs with an ankle injury. They also have a guard, David Edwards, who was upgraded from limited to full in the concussion protocol. So regardless, they could be down a couple of guys. You've talked about offensive linemen dealing with knees and ankles and groins and really affecting their power when they're facing a tough defensive lineman. I'm not sure that particular matchup is going to make them just an obvious bounce back spot offensively against the Cowboys.
It's not, but this isn't the Rams. Their pass rush doesn't often come up the middle. So I do think Allen has a chance to be back. He's going to be a game time decision there at center. He'll be back by next week. So I think this is one of those situations where, they've got to figure out the edge, whether they have to keep somebody in, whether they use more running backs or even a fullback to keep them off. They've just got to keep Matthew Stafford upright, and they haven't done that yet. I do think we're going to see tons and tons of Cooper Kupp. The other one I really love, and this is because of the way that Matthew Stafford's been playing. I was watching some tape trying to see where he was making those. Was he making all those throws? And the answer is yes, as I said. I think Trayvon Diggs is going to get greedy. I think he's going to go for interceptions, as he does on almost every play anyway. But I think there's going to be something where they get Allen Robinson and somebody on one of those mirror routes and get him open, get him deep, burn Trayvon Diggs on one of those moves. And that Matthew Stafford will have at least one touchdown to Robinson that goes for like 70 yards.
You are not alone. Our lead writer, Eli Hershkovich, thinks this is an easy get-right spot for the Rams this week and thinks the Cowboys have been a product of a poor schedule, easy schedule the past couple of weeks. So you are not alone. There seems to be a lot of games on the board this week that are generating strong opinions on both sides, which means the number's probably right. So we'll see how these play out.
Eli's a smart man. He's making me some money, so I like it.
Eli's having a great NFL. Dude, sidebar, I've never had a week like this. There are 3 games where I'm on the opposite side of Eli Hershkovich, and I am terrified this week.
Those are the ones where you start going, I have to rethink that.
Yeah, that kid's made a lot of money for a long time, and I do not like being on the opposite side of him. So we'll see. We'll try and stay ahead of him in the Beat the Lines contest standings here moving forward. But it's going to be an interesting week with a lot of bragging rights and a lot of trash talk in the Lions Slack channel here. All right, the couple others that we want to hit on here before we wrap up. Minkah Fitzpatrick is banged up here. As I'm trying to pull up his availability, just let us know what you know. Got a little tech issue here. Go ahead and fire away.
Minkah, this is a tough week. I mean, obviously Pittsburgh has been down, and he has been one of the bright spots of the defense, being able to go out there and pick things off. But he's had problems. He's going to play, but he's got some sort of knee injury, and that worries me for any sort of quick back. Now, I was worried about him having to cover Diggs or McKenzie, 2 speed guys. McKenzie's looks like he's going to be out. The depth chart for the Bills is looking really rough, but I'm worried about Fitzpatrick. Obviously, you put him on your best guy. They don't move him around to cover one guy the way some teams do, but which worried me with 2 speed guys if he can't cut. We'll have to see how that goes. He is going to play. Not even sure he'll have an injury designation this week.
As you're right, he has no injury designation. Ian Rappaport reported this afternoon he has a knee, but he's a full participant today. He is off the injury report.
It's one of those where I think you have to understand the context of what the player does, how the player plays, and what an injury does to that kind of player. This is one where I'm worried. So I think this is a day where Josh Allen can really explode. But then again, I got to figure out who's going to catch the ball. Knox is out. As I said, McKenzie's out. Gabe Davis is going to play, so maybe this is the day he steps up. And obviously, Diggs is going to be big, but you got to think they're going to be covering him tight.
Jamison Crowder also out as well. So, you're talking maybe Shakir, the rookie out of Boise State, who already was getting some snaps here and there, that you're going really far down the depth chart now behind Stephon Diggs for that number 3 wide receiver role here if McKenzie does not play. Who knows? Maybe even James Cook, a great pass catching back. Let's see if they maybe incorporate him in the slot a little bit here and there for Buffalo. Final thoughts here on J.J. Watt. There was an interesting tweet that he put out about a heart procedure that he had. Right. And you are intimately familiar with this because you went through something similar yourself.
Yeah, I had the exact same procedure a couple of years ago and unfortunately know too much about cardiac conditions. I had a little bit of arrhythmia. And so what they do is they basically hit you with the paddles at exactly the right spot. It's completely automated. You're knocked out, so you don't have to deal with it, thankfully. But you feel better instantly. You wake up, you're ready to go. If you've never had arrhythmia, good. Take care of your heart, people. But it just feels like your heart's fluttering a little bit. Sometimes your heart starts to race and it just doesn't feel right. It's very uncomfortable. And if you've had heart issues, you get scared. So the anxiety comes, which doesn't help. But this procedure is about as simple and as quick as it could possibly be. You have the procedure and immediately you feel better. Your heart is back to normal. There's nothing else. It's not like you have to start on a new medicine. You feel better right out of the gap. So I don't think there was any reason that people were worried. I think in 99% of the situations, you really have to trust the doctors. Teams do have doctors for a reason. They tend to be very, very good at their jobs. So when the doctors don't object, I don't know why anybody else should. They and the team wouldn't let Watt out there if there was really any danger. And I have a feeling that Watt was feeling significantly better on Friday than he had been on Thursday, and probably felt the same on Sunday. Certainly looked effective out there.
Yeah, great to hear. Not only for J.J. Watt, but for you as well. Looking great, looking sharp, looking handsome. And
got this nice hoodie.
There you go. Love it. The line swag. I love it. And J.J. Watt, obviously not just a great football player, but has been a great humanitarian in this league with the things he's done with the tropical storm down in Houston a few years ago. So great to hear that this isn't anything overly serious and he can continue to do what he loves and play football despite this heart procedure. The Cardinals are a 5 to 5.5 point underdog this week at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. For that full game breakdown, as well as the rest of the Week 5 slate betting breakdowns, you can check out the Megapod, which will be posted here on our YouTube channel. If you're watching us on Twitter, head on over there. We are youtube.com/thelinesus. Will, another great week. I appreciate it as always. Again, his book is The Science of Football, being sold everywhere right now. Dive in, learn about football. I think we've all grown tired of the talking head, hot takes, football analysis that we've seen over the last few years. And guys like Will are doing an amazing job to give us context and detail and actionable information in the betting world with everything surrounding the National Football League. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let us know who you are betting on this week in the National Football League. Also, top right-hand corner of the Lions homepage, hit that Discord button, an amazing new tool that lets you be alerted every time somebody on the Lions staff makes a bet so you can get the best of the number before the line moves. And we've certainly seen a lot of line moves suck out the value this week in Week 5. Hit that Discord button in the top right-hand corner. Go to the Rolls server, ROLES, and you're just going to click on the number that corresponds with the staff member you want to get bet alerts from. And every time that person puts a bet in, you're going to get a push notification when they make that bet. It's a fantastic new tool to make sure you get the best of the number each and every week across the entire sports betting landscape. Thanks for watching. For Will, I'm Steven. Best of luck betting the NFL in week number 5.